welcome everybody. We're going to go ahead and start the presentation for label printing. I have some of my notes here. So the first thing, if you haven't enabled label printing, is to go and to the admin. Actually, the master admin has to do this step, and go and click on label printing, and then you'll see here to activate it. You'll put in your order time username and password, and that will activate it. You'll also need to download one of the clients, whether it's for Windows or for Mac. Once you do that, you'll see this over here where you'll get visibility into all the printers, your local printers. So the idea basically is that we want to be able to use or leverage the local printers so you can print nicely on your labels. Once you've enabled that, you'll see a new menu item in your admin called label templates. I click on that, and I get to all the label templates that I've started. I've actually started a new label template. I went in here and I clicked on new label template and created an item template here. Obviously, I just put in a unique name, and maybe I can also put in a description for the label. And then when I want to save it, I just save it like so. Every time I save, it's best practice just to reload the page. Okay. So the other thing that you'll see is the type. So I want to go into a little bit of detail on that, because the type is kind of the context where we pull information. So in this particular case, I want to use the item as my primary source of information. And when I use the item, it'll take data from the item itself. If I would have picked something else, so you can see here I have different types. For example, this stock label, we're pulling from the inventory. Okay, so that would be your inventory list. So whatever information is on the inventory list, you'll be able to pull and put on the label if I pick inventory. Okay, we're going to go to another one here, and we're going to go to, let's say, the ship doc. Okay, so the ship doc, most transactions have a couple of additional selections. So we have the ship doc, which is the main ship doc, and then if we want to include the line items. So in this case, I do want to include the line items, and I can even go further down and say I want to also include the doc, fill, lot, or serial numbers, basically the bins and the serial numbers. So we take a look at any ship doc. So we'll just go to any old ship doc here. Something happened to my presentation.
Yeah, it just swapped. Someone else must have clicked the presentation button.
Okay. Please don't. No one touched the presentation button. Thank you. All right. So let's go and to any old ship doc, and I'll kind of explain what that means. So we have the line items over here and the ship doc. So the ship doc is the header information, so all the shipping information, the address, the customer, the name, and then the item. So the ship doc line is the ship doc line item, which is each one of these particular line items. Now I can also include, like I said, include line item detail, which is the lot numbers or the bins underneath that. So if I wanted to show, let's say, the bins detail, I would want to include that. Okay. So each one of those would have different, so here, for example, is a sales order label. And again, I have in the sales order and the sales order line item. In terms of the sales order, the detail that I can provide is the ship date. Okay, so there's a lot of data points that you can include, and so that's a little bit of discussion about what the type, and so make sure that you select the right type of where you want to pull the data. Okay, so in this case, I have receiving, I have work order, I have a shipping label for my ship docs, sales order, basic for my item, bins, etc. Now, when I want to print something, I have to go to the kind of the details. So if I wanted to print a ship doc label, I would obviously go to the ship doc and I would see there's my label. Okay. For inventory and items, so inventory and items are both from the actual item itself. So I will see both inventory and item types in my inventory. Okay. My bins, if I wanted to print labels for bins, they would be under a location. So here, for example, is my bin label, and I'm going to click this button because I don't want to print it. I just want to produce the PDF itself. And so now we'll see in a second our labels. Okay, so that's basically all the bins that I have here, and I just produced a barcode, which I'm going to go through in a second. Okay, so that's the way, after you produce the bin, the label, that's where you go ahead and print it. Okay. So we're going to go back and we're going to construct the basic item label. Okay. Before I do that, we can also talk about paper sizes or the template, actually the template size. And here I have a couple that I've created. And I can add a new one. I can add a new one if I wanted to. I'm not going to, but I could add a new one. Basically, I would add it and put the page size here, and then fill in all the details of that label. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to show you a couple of things about the labels. So as you can see, every time that I change a label, it'll kind of change. This is just one label. I have another 4x2. Label, the unit of measure, depending if you're in Europe or in the stateside, you can use centimeters or inches. And so this is just a kind of a typical Avery label, and it's on a regular piece of paper, 11.5 by 8.5, so 11 height. It's a regular piece of paper. The left margin is this margin over here on the left. The top margin is obviously the top margin. And then we put in the number of rows. And usually you can go to, like, search the Avery number on Google and or whatever search engine you use, and it'll give you all these dimensions. And of course, then you have the width of the label and the height of the label. And then these two things over here, horizontal spacing and vertical spacing, sometimes they call it horizontal and vertical pitch, but basically it's the horizontal spacing is this kind of little space between the labels. And then the vertical spacing is the space on the vertical side between the labels, which happens to be 0. Sometimes, depending on where you look, the specs, they might say the vertical pitch, or sorry, the horizontal pitch over here is 4.14. So you just kind of deduct the width of the label and just put in, what the actual pitch is. So once I have my label, depending on the label size, I can start defining what I want to put on the label. Okay. And so it'll just show us one label at any time. You can kind of preview what that labels are going to look like by just pressing the preview button over here. And here we have three different things or four different things that we can add. And I'm going to start with a barcode. Right. So I'm going to add a barcode first. So as you can see here, I can add, in terms of when I pick an item, obviously I can add any property from the item. If you've customized your email templates, you'll be familiar with tokens. So it's kind of the same idea. So let's say I want to make a barcode out of the UPC. So I just find the UPC. In this case, I'm actually going to find the name of the item. All right, so the name or number of the item, and it kind of puts in here, and I just kind of drag it like so. I drag it. And the reason we drag it is because you can concatenate. In other words, you can put multiple things together. So let's say I wanted to create, a GS1 type label. I can just add, 10, which is a delimiter, and we can kind of move it around like so. And then if I wanted to delete that, I can, of course, delete that. So I'm going to put that in there. All right, so that's my first barcode. Now, if I want to kind of re-edit it, I just click Edit. And here is kind of what's called the barcode symbology. So you'll kind of need to know what your symbology should be, whether, usually you would pick either UPC if you're going to use the UPC. Generally, the top two are the most common, either 39 or 128. If I wanted to show the value of the barcode, so you see how sometimes you can print underneath the barcode, you would check this little box right here, which says show barcode value, and that would show kind of the name, and I can place it anywhere I want it to. I'm going to also add some data. So here I'm going to add the company, and let's say I'm just going to add the name of the company. And once I have the property over here, I can use these little tools to design which font I want to use, whether I want to make it small, make it bold, etc. And then I can kind of drag it where I want. All right, so that's a piece of data. All right, I added data. Again, I can edit that data. All right, so there it is. And we're going to add that. Now I can also add just any old text. So let's say I wanted to add text like, some logo, serving you, motto, serving you. And we'll make that red, we'll make it italic, and again, we'll make it small, and I'll move it over here. I'm going to add another piece of data. Sometimes we like to print our logo, our company logo, so I'm going to do that now. All right. So we're going to just put the company logo on there. Right. Now, another option instead of the company logo is you might want to do the actual logo of the item. So again, or the image of the item. Again, that is a data point. I pick item, and then I just find the image. And there's no preview, but I can assure you it will print. All right, so that's that over there. So I'll move that over here. So we're just adding a couple of more pieces of information. And let's go ahead and add the item description. Item description, and we'll make that small. And we'll center it. And I'll move it there. Make it wider. And then the last piece I'm going to add is a label with the word price. And a data for the actual price of the item. I'm going to save that. I can preview that. So it's kind of, that's the way it's going to kind of look. And save. Okay. So let's take a look at how the label turns out. So we'll just come back in here. I'll reload that. And it's the basic one. So there is that item. That's that. Now, a couple of other things. If in terms of, sometimes you may want to repeat. You may want to repeat your label multiple times, and you could repeat the label. And we have this little thing over here called repeat labels based on. Okay, repeat labels based on. And what I did over here is I created a custom field in my editor called label repeater, and that's just basically a custom field. I just put in a number. Okay, it's nothing magic about that. Now, if I print my label, I can use that. Just do one thing here. Let's make that label repeater type quantity better. Go back here, print my label. I should see one of these things here that it should be. So that would be something that would be included in the ability to print that label. Because based on this, so you can print multiple labels. So I'm going to take a few questions now based on that.
Input your questions in the chat box. You can click on the top right. There's a chat bubble, and then you can enter it here.
All right, so we'll go. Now, most of the time when you print labels, so your shipping label over here, most often than not, you'll repeat it based on the quantity. So for example, here, let me just put in quantity of 2 here. I take my label, and if I just leave it like this, so I can press this and print based on the quantity, and what should happen is that we should see it like a repeating quantity for 2 of those labels. So we have the first has a label, and then for each box, each item, there's another label, so a total of 3. And so that's what I was talking about, repeating. So one of the things is to start off with lot codes. The question was, how do I design something for lot codes, and just start off from scratch. That basically is going to the inventory. So you're going to create a label of type inventory. Okay. So here I have a label of type inventory, and I'm going to add data. So the data I want to add in this particular is the lot number. Sorry, I want to add a barcode. So I'm going to add here the lot number. Okay, and I'm going to lot number here, and I'm just going to drag it like so. And again, I want to see the value of the lot code. So now I have here a barcode of the item itself and a barcode of the lot code. So that's kind of the way it's going to look. All right, so in that particular case, again, I go to my item list, or my item that I want to print. Now this item doesn't have lot codes, but I believe this one does. So there's a lot code, and so I should see two labels here. Oh, I obviously picked the wrong. So let me pick another. Let me go back to that for a second. There's a lot. There's the two barcodes. I just have to be careful sometimes. You just have to be careful about which property you're going to use here. So I'm just going to save that. Sometimes it gets, you add the property by mistake. Just make sure that the property is correct, and that way you can easily print those labels. And sometimes, they get these question marks. It's kind of tricky. It shouldn't be tricky, but if you do get those question marks, you can just re-add the label. So if you re-add the label, you won't get those question marks anymore. All right. Let's save that. So if you get question marks. So there's the proper one. And then if I want to repeat that, I'll repeat that, let's say based on available. So we should get a number of different labels now, about 12 of them or 15 of them. So that's actually repeating the label for each quantity that I have available. Okay. Where does the lot number come from? This lot number came from when I ultimately received the inventory into the system. I entered a lot code. So without getting into, because that's another topic, basically when you create an item, you have to make sure that you have track, lot, or serial number included or checked. And then when you receive inventory in from a purchase order, let's say. So let's go back to, let's see if we have any open purchase orders for this item. We do. So let's say we'll go to this purchase order over here. Okay. And I'll just go to the purchase order. lot codes would be entered when you receive a purchase order for an item that has a lot code. So in this case, I would go in and start entering my lot codes over here, right? I can add them over here, or I can enter them through the other dialog. The system can auto number it for you if you want, right? Or you can just kind of scan it in yourself as well. So we can also, if we click into the box over here, we can scan it in like so. Okay. We can also import from CSV, and the system can auto number as well. Auto number. So that's how you print the lot codes. And going back to my template editor, so there is the receiver lot code. A lot of people will print their labels right at the point of receiving the inventory, right? So I have here, I have a label over here on the receiving side, and I go to my receiver, and I've received those items, so I can print the lot, the lot codes right here. Okay, so there are my two lot codes that I received. One of them with same item, but two different lot codes, two different barcodes for different items. So if there are no more questions, any more questions on that? Alrighty then. All right, thank you very much. Everybody have a good day.